Hello, good evening. Today we are going to discuss on how important education is in the reconstruction of our Kenyan society. We are going to discuss on how important education is in the reconstruction of our Kenyan society. And we shall start by discussing what is education. By defining what is education, we shall say that education is a progression of learning or the gaining of knowledge, skills, values, beliefs, and habits. There are three types of education. We have formal education, informal education, and non-formal education. They may learn by use of the observation, experience, and other factors which may result to contribute to their oral society on different ways. Scholars argue that students in developing countries still chooses the formal education for better career opportunities. Nevertheless, formal and informal and informal education still serves its main purpose, which is molding young ones for their future profession of interest. It is important for us to make sure that there is equal access to education for both boys and girls. The reason for this it is because it will help to eliminate gender inequality, which is still very prevalent in Kenya today. Another thing that should be done is for us to make sure that all children have access to quality education, regardless of where they live or what their socio-economic status is like. This way, no child will be left behind because he or she lives in an area with limited resources or has parents who cannot afford school fees. Then we shall go on and move on discussing the aspects or the different ways on how education is important in our Kenyan societies. And we shall start by discussing several points. And in this article, I have discussed like 10 points or 10 main points that we shall be discussing with you on the importance of education in our Kenyan society today. The first point we shall discuss that in order to rebuild Kenyan society, it is necessary for all citizens to have access to education. This is true because education helps people become more productive members of their communities, and it also helps them understand what actions are acceptable and which ones are not. When people have an education, they can contribute more effectively to society and benefit themselves as well as others. For example, if someone has been educated about HIV and AIDS and know how it spreads through unprotected sex or sharing needles, then they will know how to protect themselves from getting infected with the disease. Similarly, if someone has been educated about gun control laws, then they will know how to handle guns in a safer way that does not endanger themselves or others around them. Education allows people to make informed choices about their lives and makes them more likely to make good decisions that benefit everyone involved rather than just themselves alone, which is especially important when rebuilding a country like Kenya where there are so many different types of cultures living side by side together peacefully under one government body. And my second point is that in order to reconstruct the Kenyan society and achieve a lasting change in education, it is important that we provide education for the total individual. This means that we need to ensure that children are not only getting an education in their specific subject areas, but also learn how to be good citizens, how to interact with others, and how to take care of themselves. We should be teaching them about their rights and citizens as well as their responsibilities. We should teach them skills like critical thinking, problem solving, and how to work together as members of society. It is also important that we provide opportunities for children who do not have access or resources available at home so they can continue their studies even if they cannot afford them on their own or live far away from schools where they could find jobs after graduation. This will help ensure that all children have equal opportunity to learn and grow into productive members of society who will be able to contribute towards rebuilding Kenya's economy when they are older elders. And while discussing my third point, I will emphasize that education is a key factor that is construction of Kenyan society. It is important to consider the total individual when it comes to education. Education should not be limited to classroom. It should be a holistic experience that teaches students how to interact with their classmates, how to evaluate information, how to think about the world around them, and how to take an active role in their own learning process. Students need to understand that education is not just about getting good grades and getting into college. They should also be encouraged to pursue their passions and interests outside of schoolwork so that they can gain valuable life experience from these interests and pursuits. In order to rebuild the Kenyan societies, as I discussed the fourth point, it is important that education be provided to all individuals. The current government has taken steps to ensure at least that education is available to everyone, but more needs to be done. In the past, education was not as readily available as it is now. In recent years, however, there have been efforts made by the Kenyan government to expand access to education for children across Kenya. These efforts have been successful in increasing enrollment rates across the country by 15% per year since 2019. An important step in increasing literacy rates in Kenya is providing equal access for all children regardless of their gender or economic status. While there has been some improvement in this area over time, there are still many children who do not have an opportunity for an education because of their gender or economic status. With this being said, it becomes clear that there needs to be more done within Kenya's educational system if they want their economy and society as a whole to prosper into the future. Education is therefore important to the reconstruction of Kenyan society. It is the most powerful tool we have to change the systems that perpetuate inequality and injustice. Education allows us to learn about the world, education around us, and it gives us opportunities to share our knowledge with others. Education can also help us understand our own identities as individuals so that we can work toward equality in all aspects of life. Education is key to socio-economic and political development. It is important for that total individual and for the community at large. It is through education that an individual gains knowledge, skills, and competence which are necessary for their personal growth and for the overall prosperity of their family, community, nation, and the world at large. In Kenya, education has not been accorded great importance, which has led to lack of access by many children from poor families. This has resulted in a huge gap between children from rich and poor families. The government, therefore, should provide free education to all children, irrespective of their family background, so that they can have equal opportunities in life. It should also ensure that all schools have adequate resources, including teachers and books, so that they can deliver quality education to all students, irrespective of their socio-economic status. Point 7 is that the country has suffered from lack of education opportunities and resources for decades. And it is vital that we provide people with the tools they need to succeed. The first step in this process is to establish schools throughout the country. This will require not only establishing new buildings but also hiring teachers and providing them with supplies. Once these schools are established, we must ensure that children are able to receive an education there. This means not only providing them with an education, but also making sure that they have access to books and other materials. In addition, on this point, we can therefore argue that access to education for all children, we must also ensure that others are able to receive training in order to obtain better jobs or become entrepreneurs themselves. This training can become in many forms: online courses, short term programs at community colleges, vocational skills, training, etc. etc. Education is one of the most important components of society. In fact, education can be credited as one of the primary reasons for human civilization's success as a species. What began as simple cave paintings and a rudimentary language has evolved into a global community that uses education to develop its members into productive citizens. We can therefore say that in Kenya, this process has been derailed by years of unrest and civil war. Many schools have been closed due to security concerns, and many students have not been able to finish their education because they have had to work or care for family members instead. This has resulted in a culture where many young people are unable to find work and are forced into lives of crime or poverty because they do not have any other options available to them. One way that we can help rebuild our society is through education, and that means every aspect of it, from early childhood development through college and beyond, including vocational training, by creating opportunities for all children and young adults alike. We can restore hope for the future in Kenya's youth and thus improve conditions for everyone who lives there today. Education is important in the society, as I discussed point number 9, but it's especially critical in nation recovering from decades of conflict and instability. The rebuilding of Kenya will require a generation of people who are knowledgeable about their history and able to work together to create a better future for all Kenyans. Kenya has been working on reconstructing its educational system since independence in 1963. But there is still much to be done. The goal is to provide every child with quality education that will prepare them for success in their future careers. The current focus on the Kenyan government is on equity, quality education for all children by 2030. Finally, we can say that we must ensure that all students have access to appropriate resources such as computers or tablets so they can complete their homework assignments after school hours or during breaks between classes at school itself. We can therefore conclude that education for the total individuals is important in the reconstruction of Kenyan society. Education equips individuals with the necessary skills and knowledge that they need to be able to make informed decisions about their lives. This will help them develop a sense of responsibility, which should lead to better decision making on behalf of themselves and their communities. The aim of education is not only to provide people with technical skills, but also spiritual and moral guidance. This way, students will become more tolerant towards others who may have different beliefs or practices than theirs and be able to respect them regardless of differences. This can go a long way in promoting peace within communities where there may be conflict between various groups or tribes due to religious differences. Thank you.